I wanted to shift the conversation to something that's happening in Mason, Tennessee. We're going to be joined, and I want to welcome to the conversation Anita Woodwani. She's a reporter for the Tennessee Lookout, and I came across their article discussing the incoming comptroller, Jason Mumpower, announcing that the state would take control over the town's finances. And this is just before Ford Motor Company is getting ready to make a significant investment into this city, Georgia. And before we go into this conversation, I have to add this one last piece of information. The city is predominantly Black. Anita, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Could you tell us a little bit more about your reporting?
Well, good morning. And first of all, this is early for me. I'm not a morning person, so forgive any frogs in my throat.
Oh, no, thank
So,
you.
so Mason is a pretty small town in rural West Tennessee. It's been around for more than 150 years. And the week before last, the Tennessee Comptroller gave town officials an ultimatum. And that was that they should either cede their charter, which would essentially um, not erase Mason from the map necessarily, but end their representative government, end their existence as a municipality. The other side of that ultimatum is if town leaders chose not to do that, that he would take financial control of the town. And the comptroller has said that, this town for 20 years has struggled with its finances. It has a long history of, not submitting their budgets or audits or doing all the kinds of things that municipalities are required to do under state law. There have also been a couple of pretty egregious instances of fraud in the town's history. One town official paid himself an extra $600,000 and was later indicted. Another one took off with $100,000. And those things are largely responsible for putting Mason in a big financial hole. And so where we are now is the town Board of Aldermen voted not to cede their charter. They passed a resolution saying, no, we're not going to do that. And the comptroller has said publicly that he is now currently taking steps to take financial control. And he and Mason officials are meeting for the first time about that step today.
Anita, I want to first of all thank you for your reporting on this, and I'm going back to another article that you wrote on this. Help us to understand the nature of those financial troubles that happened in the city, and I'm trying to find which article, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I read that there was a shift of power in the city. That at one time the city was predominantly managed by predominantly white leadership. Did I read that correctly? What was that transition like, and did that have any overlap with the fraud?
So up until 2015, Mason was led, and for about a century, maybe with some exceptions I'm not aware of, it was led entirely by white elected officials, almost entirely by white elected officials. This is a town that is majority Black, and that's been true for a very long time. In 2015, and this was after and I'm sorry, I'm trying to recall the name of the position of the person who committed the fraud, and it's escaping me. But this individual had his fraud emerged in 2015. The state comptroller was investigating. There was a criminal investigation. Almost the entire leadership of the town resigned. And it left a junior alderman who was recently elected, a Black woman, who was essentially next in line to become mayor. So she was the first mayor in she was the first Black and woman mayor in Mason. And since then, there have been a couple of elections since then. The leadership has been Black. The mayors and the vice mayors have been Black. Currently, Mason has a Black mayor, Mr. Emmett Gooden. It has a Black vice mayor, Miss Virginia Rivers, and 5 of its aldermen, and I believe it has 6 aldermen, are Black. And when you talk with the leadership in Mason, this is a point that they kind of lead with first, is the fraud that really resulted in them having such a deep financial hole.
Difficulty. Yeah.
Resulted during prior administrations, and
That's
those
the
were
part.
white administrations.
Yeah. Sister
Mm.
Ford.
So, what impact would it have on the city if this individual takes control over the finances of the town?
So the comptroller has said that he is taking control. I'm not sure what options Mason have to challenge that right now, but what it would mean is a very tight rein on the workings of town government. Any expense of $100 or more would have to be approved by the comptroller's office.
Wow.
They would have to submit weekly financials. And he's already indicated that, they've got a plan for Mason that is going to require the town to essentially pay more than $25,000 a month to pay off some of the debt that they've accrued.
Okay.
Which, I actually don't know how much their monthly budget is, but I think that for a town that size, that's going to mean layoffs. It's going to mean benefit cuts. It may mean things that that have not emerged yet. And I think in terms of elected officials who are making decisions about, for example, should we put a sidewalk outside City Hall? Or should we plant trees in the park? I mean, any one of those decisions is going to be subject to this financial oversight. Most of the decisions they make have to do with money.
And
Go ahead.
what is the feeling of the people in Mason in regards to the Ford plant coming in?
So I can't pretend to be an expert on the culture of this little town. I visited it for the first time week before last. I spent a day there. I tried to talk to as many people as possible. But honestly, people were really guarded with me. And I would have some off the record conversations that were more revealing, but on the record, and at the time that I was there was just ahead of a town meeting where city officials were going to explain to the community what was happening. And so I got a lot of like, well, I just want to hear what they have to say tonight. And I mean, honestly, I think that both the African American and the white residents that I spoke to may have had different reasons for being guarded with talking to me, a reporter from out of town who they didn't know.